Hello, my dears. Our lesson today is about the percentage of shapes. If you're following from your Cavendish book, this will be in your pupils book, page 219. Now, we covered how to convert a fraction into a percentage and vice versa. What if I'm asking you to shade a shape or write the shaded area as a percentage? Now, if I'm asking you to write the shaded area in this shape as a fraction, that should be easy because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total parts, and the number of parts that are shaded are only 3. Now, this fraction, if it's required to write it as a percentage, now we're going to use the skills that we learned in the previous lesson, where to write any fraction as a percentage, the denominator has always to be 100. So for the 5 to become 100, we multiply it by, that's right, 20. That was in the box of hundreds that I gave you. And of course, we have to do the same for the numerator. So 3 times 20 will be 60. Now, this fraction out of 100 is very easy to write as a percentage because we only take the numerator, which is 60, and we replace the denominator with the percent sign, and this is read as 60%. So the amount or the percentage of this shape that is shaded is 60%. Let's take another shape. Here I have a square that is divided into 8 whole parts, or 8 equal parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I am asking you to write the percentage of the shape that is shaded. Now, to do that, we start with a fraction. I have 8 parts. And I have 6 parts that are shaded. So when we write that as a fraction, we say 6 shaded parts out of 8 whole parts. Now, I want you to write this as a percentage. You will say, I don't know how to turn the 8 into 100. Well, you have 2 ways to do that. You might do the simplest form of this fraction. The simplest form will be done by dividing by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now you have 3 out of 4. And from the box of hundreds, we know that the 4 can be turned into 100 if we multiply it by 25. And 3 times 25 is 75. So 75 out of 100 is 75%. So 75% of this whole square has been shaded. Or you can say this box is divided into 8, but I want to change that and divide it into 4. You can say this one whole part is shaded. This second part is shaded. You divided them into smaller squares. So this square is shaded. That's 1, 2. So I have 4 squares. And out of those four squares, I have 2 whole that are shaded. For these 2, you can say that this triangle and this triangle make up a whole square. So I have 3 total squares that are shaded. And here we will have 1 square left that is not shaded. Let's do that one more time. I split or divided my big square into 4 smaller squares. This whole square is shaded, that's square 1. This whole square is shaded, that's square 2. Now for these, I only did a displacement. So I moved this empty triangle here, and I moved this colored or shaded triangle into here. So I have 2 shaded triangles here, which make 3 whole squares that are shaded. and I have one whole square that is not shaded. So 3 out of 4. Now to change this into a percentage, we will do the same that we did in this step. We multiply by 25, we will have 75 out of 100, which equals to 75%. In the end, you will have the same answer, but this is a way to play around with the shape and the figures if you don't know how to simplify, or if it didn't come to you as fast to simplify the fraction. You can simply just play around with the shape and divide it into parts that you can, or you know how to turn them into 100. So I divided it into 4 parts, and I know how to turn the 4 into 100. Let's take a look at another shape. Here, I am asking you to give me a percentage of the shaded area. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares, and 6 are shaded. We can do what we did in the previous question, or we can play around with the shape. This shape is split into 4 rectangles. If you see here, I will change each 2 rectangles into one part. One part, one part, one part. And that will give me a total of 4 parts. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. Out of those whole 4 parts, I have 1, 2, 3 that are shaded. We can multiply the 4 by 25 to give me 100, and 3 by 25 will give me 75, which will equal to 75%. Let's take the question in a different way. If I am asking you to shade 30% out of this rectangle, this rectangle is divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 parts. 10 parts. So if I shade one part, that will be 10%, because it'll be 1 out of 10, which is equal to 10%. But the question doesn't want me to shade only 10%. I need to shade 30%. So I need to shade 3 squares out of the whole 10. Will this be equal to 30%? Let's see. I will say 3 multiplied by 10 and 10 multiplied by 10 to turn my denominator into 100. So 3 times 10 will be 30, which will be 30%. So in order to shade 30% out of this rectangle, I will need to shade 3 squares. Or you can say one part is 10%, so 10%, 20%, 30%. And that goes on for whatever percentage he wants you to shade. Let's say he wanted me to shade 45%. I will say 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, and the 5 is half the 10. So I will shade only half a rectangle. And that's it. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you again next time.